Hello everyone, thank you so much for joining. This is day 13 of Oracle Integration training. But in this session, we are going to learn how we can invoke our BIP report in OIC. And after invoking, obviously we can perform multiple operations with the data which we receive. Either it can be that we can send the report output file to email, or we can place it to file server, or obviously some cases it can be possible, or we can have the requirement to whatever BIP report data we have to return the same data to a response of that integrations. So generally we are using this case in case of VBCS page. So there can be scenarios where in organizations you have VBCS page where you are searching invoices or anything. So it can be possible that in VBCS page there will be one search box where you just have to enter the invoice details or anything, and based on that, once you will click on search button, your expectation is that you whatever invoice created in Oracle ERP system, that should be listed down below. So for that case also you can utilize this BIP report. So you can create one integrations. That integrations will take request payload or that URI parameters as an invoice number, and it will return the BIP report data as a response. So that also we can utilize it can be one of the applications of BIP report. And obviously in case of outbound integrations where we have to extract the data from ERP applications, and we have to send that data to any third party system, that can be file server or any other applications and all, we can also use BIP report to extract all the data from ERP applications. So in our previous sessions, we already learned about that how we can create BIP reports and how we can invoke that BIP reports using web services. So just for recall purpose, so I can show you that. So this is the ERP applications where we have the BIP report which is returning the invoices data. So just to navigate where you will go to the BIP reports, just in the URL, remove everything after .com and just add the analytics. It will directly open you that business integration page where you just have to write the queries and all. So as we already created the reports, we created two reports, one report with parameters and another report without parameters, and we all see that how we can invoke both reports from web services. And similar thing we will go in OIC. So before going to that, just to brief, this is our report which is having parameters. So when we are running this report is expecting that parameters, that is the number of records. For example, here I will pass 15 and apply, so it will return us the records with number of 15 rows. That's number of 15 records. That's here we are able to see. Similar thing we can do in OIC, and we already tested using web services. So now, just to recall what we have done till now to run the BIP reports or to obviously use the BIP reports. So if just I can open in here steps. So first we created the BIP report, right? Once we created the BIP reports, so for creating the BIP reports, we follow two steps. The very first step is that we created data model where we write SQL queries, and then in the second step we created a report where we added the data model, and we added the layouts for the report. So this after completing of this step, we just directly run the reports and all. So in case of web services, we just invoke this web report using SOAP services. So after invoking, we got that report data in base64 format, if you remember. So I have opened that page here, and we are receiving report output in the base64 code. So let me correct this one, and I'm just going to run this one. This is the same report we used last time. So once this report executions got completed using the SOAP services, we are getting data, and the data is available in the base64 code, and we are converting this base64 code into the actual report data. So that's you can see that decode base64 code. For decoding the base64 code, as of now, we use any web services, web tools, like we have decode base64 code. This one website. So we use this website. So where we are passing this one basically for code, and it's giving us the actual data. So that as our BIP report is returning data in CSV, we have this one. So we have only 4 records just because while invoking from SOAP services, we pass parameters as 4. So that's working fine. Now, so let me note down this step. So invoke BIP reports using SOAP services, and then the third step, decode report output base 64 to actual data. So these 3 steps we have follow manually, right? Now all these 3 steps we have to do in OIC, and obvious for doing in OIC all these steps we can have to perform multiple operations, and all these operations we will do here. So I will do the operations and I will make a note of here one by one, so that it will be easy for you to recall later. Now this will be the step where we see. So now, the very first step is already created. Now we have to go for second step to invoke. And obviously, we don't want to invoke that BIP report this time using SOAP UI tool. We have to invoke that using OIC. So in OIC, we have to execute the SOAP services. To execute the SOAP services, obvious, that's why we have execute. It means that to invoke the SOAP services, that's why in OIC we have concept as connections. It means that in OIC we have created connections which can execute SOAP URL. It can execute SOAP web services. So we'll just go to the connection here first, and here in the connections we will create the connections, so that these connections we can utilize in our integrations. So before going to create connections, we should have that URL which SOAP services we have to invoke for the BIP reports, and we know that this is the URL which we utilize to invoke BIP reports. So this URL we have already made a note somewhere. So let me check that URL. This is the node. Yeah. So this is the URL to invoke the BIP report. So I'm just going to make it here. So here, so the very first step will be prepare web services. So which we already prepared last time. So this is the web services to invoke the BIP reports. Now we have this web services URL, that digital URL to invoke the BIP reports. The very next step will be to create the connections. So create SOAP connection to invoke above SOAP visitor, or we can say that SOAP services. So now for this step, let's create that BIP, create the connections. To create the connections, we just have to navigate to the connection part, and here we have to create. So I'm just going to create connections here now. So as while creating, we have to select the adapters that for which adapters these connections will be. So this connection will be for SOAP, so that it can execute the SOAP services. So I will select the SOAP, and now you can see the create connection having the SOAP adapters. Now I have to give the name. So I will give the name as FOAS underscore SOAP BIP invoke form. So we know that these connections we are going to use, and these connections we will use to invoke the reports, right? Obvious, to invoke. So that's why I give a name as invoke, and obvious in this case we have to select the role as invoke. Even we will select that trigger and invoke, that will also work, but just for brief, I'm just going to use that invoke. And in the description, in the connection description, you can give the details that for what kind of this connections is going to do. So we know that this connection is going to execute on dev 13. So I will just give the name as, or in also like in your project you can mention that instance or like environment in the connections only, so that by looking for the name you can identify for which environment this connection is. So I will just give the name invoke BIP invoke, or you can say here FOS dev 13. I will give the name dev 13 SOAP BIP, so that you will get to know these connections having the dev 13 connectivity. Or either you can give it here in this one. Now I'm just going to click on create. Once we will click on create, it will ask you to provide the details. So provide the details means either you can provide that WSDL URL or you can upload that WSDL file here or that zip file, whatever you have for that connectivity. So as we know that we have already that WSDL URL that for which we are going to invoke the SOAP services. So I will use this WSDL here. And now here you can see we given the details. If you remember in the SOAP UI, what we have done to invoke the SOAP services, we provided the credentials that user and password for this, right? And we selected authentication as basic. So similar way we have to do here. So we have to select the authentications. Okay, don't need to pass it here because it's completely available for this. So here we just have to select the security type. So security type obviously it will be basic or that we selected in our Postman SOAP UI. So this is the generic practice. So it can be like while working on your project, there can be some scenarios where you have to invoke external SOAP services or external REST services. To invoke that SOAP services, obviously you require the details, credentials, right? That how that API will be accessible. So client will share the details and you cannot blindly go and create the connections. So before creating connections, you will make sure that that is working fine. So obvious for that you can have the tools where you can utilize, you can test that one. If it is SOAP services, you can go for checking, you can go and check in this SOAP UI or other obvious, like we have the Postman that where you can also test. So once you will test in that web services tool, you will get to know that whatever URL they given, whatever ID password they given, and whatever simple request payload they given, that is working fine. That's perfectly. So that you can create the connections and you can utilize the same in integrations. So here as authentications, I selected basic and given the user password, similar thing we'll do here. So we'll select the here and here we have to provide the ID password. So I will go and I already have make a note of that ID password somewhere. Yeah. So this is the user and this is the password. Sometimes we have that we are facing issues. So what issues we are facing? You have that fusion URL ID and password. That user doesn't have access to invoke the SOAP services. So if you will not test using any SOAP, any webs, any tools, directly you will come to connections. It can be possible that your user doesn't have access to invoke the SOAP services. You will get an error. So that's why before coming to OIC, everything we are verifying from the tools only. So that if here you are not able to, or your user is not able to invoke the services, it means that there is something problem with the users. You can fix all these issues here, then you can navigate to that integrations part. So I given the details of this, our Fusion applications. This one is publicly available. We can access this URL from anywhere. That's why we don't require here any agent. So we sometimes some of the project this URL is not publicly accessible. So they in most of the time in prod environment they added that security that if you are in that a specific network then only you will be able to access this URL. So in this case, obviously your OIC will also be not able to access the URL. The URL be given here. So that's why at the time we need agent. We will have one more sessions on the agent also, a specific on agent. So we'll see there. So now we given the details, we just have to test this one. Right now it's in draft mode. I'm just going to test so that this will be move ahead. So I'm just click on test. Now it's got 100% configurations that URL ID password got accepted. Now I'm just going to click on save. Once we will save, you can see the status got changed to configure. It means that now this is ready to use in OIC. I'm just going to back here. And here you can see we given the created the connections and here this is the description we given BIP report for their 13. So I'm just going to make a note of this BIP, the connections name somewhere. So here we created the connections, right? We created the connections and in the connections we given the URL and all. Now the third step is to create integration. And it depends the integrations you are going to create for what kind of operations you are going to create integrations. It can be possible that you have to create integration in a such way that integration will take one parameters and whatever report data will be there, it will return as a response. So in this case, we have to create app-driven integrations. It can be possible that you just have to create integrations and that integrations will be scheduled on a specific time. And on the time, your BIP report will be invoked from OIC and whatever data it will return, that data will be automatically placed to file server. So this automations process, then we can go for schedule integration. So it's depend. So let's say example, as of now, we have to create one integrations. That integrations will take parameters and it will return the data. So what parameters it will take? So here as we created integrations, which is taking number parameters, that's number of row, same parameters we will create in our integrations. For that, we have to just prepare the request and response payload. So for this, here we will just add the steps that select the integration pattern as per your requirements. Now we selected, so we selected that patterns will be app driven. And this app driven in Gen 3 consider as an application style. Now we selected the patterns. So now we have to, in case of app driven, where we have to add the request and response payload, obviously we have to prepare the request and response payload. So what kind of request your integrations will accept and what response it will return. So now I'm just going to give the next step, that prepare request and response payload for the integration. Now this payload is also done. So let me create integrations and add all these things. So now I'm just going to click on create applications, and here we have to give the names. I will give the name FOAS underscore AP INV BIP out. And so it is something like FOS AP invoice BIP report outbound INT. So now this is the integration name I'm given. I'm just going to click on create. So here we have to prepare the request and the response payload. So request payload, what we want, I want to give the request as a same parameters, whatever we have for BIP report, that's number of row. So let me prepare the payload as total row. So this we will give as a request payload, and in the response, what we need? In the response, we need that BIP reports data. So what BIP report data is it's holding? It's holding few of the columns, that invoice ID, line number, line types, and all. So I just want to return all this field there, right? So I'm just going to make a payload with this field. So for that, we will create one and we'll make a node as BIP report response. And inside the node, we can have multiple values. We can have these multiple values. That's why I just given the symbol as array. And for this array, how many fields will be there? So that's field we have to give in this bracket, in the parentheses. So I added here, and here all field I will give in this double quotes. So invoice ID, one of the field. So it's not mandatory that whatever fields you are getting from reports give the same name. So this is not the correct good name, right? That capital, all these in capitals. I will give the name as user friendly, that invoice number ID, right? And here this I given the value, this value as will be as a string. So that's why I've given the double quotes. As of now, I don't have any value just because I just have to create the simple payload. That's why I given double quotes here. And whatever value will be there, it will receive from the OIC. Now this is the very first column. Second column is line number. So instead of that second column line number, I will give that as an invoice number. So this is done. This invoice number is done. I'm writing here invoice number. So here you can see I'm just going to add this tab here, the additional space, just to make this XML, this JSON format more readable, so that it will be easier to understand. It's not mandatory that you have to pass it here, that multiple space. You can make it simple also. So I just generally I'm using this one so that it can be easy to see. Now invoice ID, invoice number, line, and after I will give that this what is invoice amount. Let me give the column name as invoice amount. And after invoice amount, let me give as invoice date. After that, we have source. Invoice date is done, invoice source is done, vendors. Vendor ID. And then invoice currency. And then here we have line number and line type. And line type. So these all are the column we are receiving from invoice. But I just don't want to display return only these values. So with this value, I just want to return that number of records are there in this one and all the details, right? So for that, what we can do, I just want to make a header here, just like details. So here, what in the details, what I want to give that. So I just want to give details like report name, integrate report parameters. Let me give the report parameters. Parameters value. And here I will give that total. And after the total record count, I just want to give the integration status also. So I just don't want to mess up this status with here only. So I will create another node for the status. So we'll make as integration details. This is the like way to prepare the payload. If client will share you the payload, that you have to share in that way. Otherwise, if it's like that, you can prepare your payload accordingly and then share the payload to other one. So who is going to utilize your integration? It can be VBCS page or anywhere. So that all the details, whatever you will pass in the VBCS page, if they want, they can display. So in integrations details, I just want to display the value like integration date, integrations name, and integration version, integration identifier, and after that I just want to give that status. Status again, it can be success or error, something like that. And in case of error, we will make sure that all these value won't be there. So that kind of logic we can add, and that we can make that process message. So here you can see in our JSON response, we have three nodes. So the very first node name is that integrations details. Another one is that BIP details. Let me add that BIP details. BIP details, and that the last one is that BIP response, report response. So as this BIP report response can have multiple values, this one, that's why I make it as an in array here. You can see that a square bracket is considered as an array. And now BIP details and all integration details will be single value for with this. So that's why we have in this curly braces here. Now you can see all these fields are there. I just want to make it as a response field. So now done. I'm just going to add the connections in integrations. So as we are expecting that all this value will be there in the request and response payload, so obviously we need something that will trigger our integrations. So that's why we have that connection as a trigger or trigger and invoke. And we already created one of the connections that FOAS underscore REST something REST trigger connections, right? This one. So this trigger connections help us to initiate our integration. So I'm just going to select it here. And here we have to give the name to the endpoints. And we know that whatever connection, action, anything you are going to add in integration canvas, that's considered as a canvas. That considered as a endpoint. So here we have to give the name to the endpoint. So let's say that this endpoint is going to initiate the integrations or run the integrations. I will give the name as trigger. Trigger, and this is REST type, so I will give as REST. Now click on continue. Here you can see what does this operations do. You can pass, otherwise you can escape, but this is the resource URI. That URI you will share with the external system. That can be VBS page or anything. So this URL I will give the name as AP records. And now as we have to set request and response payload both, so instead of get operations, we have to select as a post so that it allows to send the request and response payload. To send the request payload, we have to make a checkbox here that configure a request payload, which will allow us to provide the request payload, and this configure this endpoint to receive the response. It means that this integrations endpoint will return you the response. Receive means that. So just I'm going to make a check here. Now just go next. So once you will click on next, as we selected the request payload, it will ask us to provide the request payload details. You can see configure request. So now in the configure request, we know that our integrations will accept the request payload as a JSON. So that's why by default JSON selected here. Let it be. Otherwise, you can have XML or anything. So let it be as a XML right now, JSON right now. And now here, either you can provide the request payload by uploading the file, or you can directly provide inline. So I will go for inline. And what is the request payload? Which we already prepared. So this is the request payload we prepare. Now continue. So here we given the request payload here in this one. Now we just have to go for configure the response payload. So just click on continue. You can see configure response. And in the configure response, again, we have to provide the payload. And we know that we already prepared the payload. That's, let me add that. Response payload. So this is the payload we created. So I'm just going to copy this payload here and going to paste in the inline. Click on continue. We are getting error here, so let me fix that error. So this error is something that whatever payload we given, that payload is not correct. That is incorrect payload. So let me find out where we have done the mistake. I got to know. So here you can see I added comma here, right? So this comma is saying that we have next field after this one. But in this node, in the BIP report node, we don't have next field, right? Next field is there in the next node. So here the column comma should not be there. So I'm just going to remove this column, and just for giving verif, yeah, all is well. This two is true. This two is correct. So I'm just going to copy it again and paste it here. So once you will paste and just where is this okay one? Yeah, click on continue. So once you will click on continue, if your payload is correct, it will just send. You can see now you are not able to see here, but once you will click on this inline again, you will be able to see the payload, right? So that is fine. I'm just going to click on cancel as we already submitted. Now click on continue and finish. So once you will finish, before that you can also see the summary. So if you will click expand there, you can see that we given that URI as API records, method at post, and request and response both at JSON. That's fine, right? So just click on finish. Now our integrations canvas ready, where we have the endpoint to invoke the endpoint to initiate our integrations, just the trigger endpoint. So just taking time to load, let it complete here. You can see that our endpoint got loaded here, and this the name of the endpoints. So I'm just going to change this view to horizontal. I'm just going to save it here. So if we have one error here, we know that each and every integration required one business identifier. That's why we have here. That's totally fine. I don't want to change it here. So now what we have to do after this endpoint, we just have to invoke this services. So before going to invoke, we know that what we need that VIP report path, we need that VIP report parameters, name and all. That if we want to send the notifications, we need the email details and all everything, right? So before that, it's my personal practice. I'm just adding a variable here, just like default variable. And then whatever variable we require, I added here. And after that, I am starting the process. So here, same, I will just add the variable here. So before I let me add the next. So what we have done, we prepare the request payload, and then on the next step, add the REST connections to configure request and response payload. This we have done. Then what we have to do, we just have to add the assign actions to create two default variables. And then after what we have to do, we just have to, like I will show you that. We have to create a scope, we have to invoke that SOAP services that I will show you. So now here we just have to create that variable, and where we will create the variables. Obvious, this mapping is something that's saying that what this integration will give us result in the response. It means that this is the last step. So before that we have to do. So this is the one which will initiate our integration or run the integration. This is something that it will return the response. Now before that, between these two we have to do. So here I'm just going to create variable. So here I'm not going to add here. Yeah. So variable, for creating the variable we need assign action. So I will use the assign here, this one. And this assign need obvious the name. So I'm just going to change the name here. So I will give the name as default underscore assign. Default where we can say. And what variable you have to create? The very first variable, I know that the very first variable will be the report path. Or we can say the report directory. So every time when I creating variable, I am using that name as var underscore. And then we will give the name as var report path. So what is the report path for we have? So we know that we have the report path somewhere we noted. So let me go for this error here. So this is the report path. I'm just going to copy. So what we need here, we created var underscore report path, this value. And this is the string value. So I will give in the single quotes. Now this variable created with the one. And also like I want that when this created, and if we have to send that file to somewhere, I was want that timestamp. Generally we are using. So let's create one variable with the timestamp. Var underscore timestamp. And for timestamp, we have that syntax, right? So let me search where we have. So I didn't remember the field. Uh, so this is the timestamp for that. So here we have. I will just copy this syntax that in this format we want that date. So yeah. So for that, obvious first we need the date. So I'm just going to bring the date, but date need to be converted into a string. So I will first select the string function. So this is the string function, and that date we have to convert into a string. So date, we have one function as current date time. This current date time return the current date and time. So this is the current date time. Now we have to format this value into our desired result, which is DDDMMYY. So now I'm just going to use here format date time. This format date time is the function which is going to convert your date time into your desired format. So now this is the function, this is the value. I'm just going to remove. This is the first parameters, and the second parameter is the format which we have to provide. So this is the format. I didn't copy and paste whatever code we have here, just because if you will see, we created by drag and drop, and if you will see this time the code and change. So why code changed, that you can see the namespace got changed. Earlier it was XP20 when we have used in our old integrations. Now it's NS1. So this node, right? This XP20 or NS1 is depend on that place where you created this one and where you are going to utilize this. So we created our timestamps. So let me add this timestamp also in our node. I will share this node to you so that it will be easy for you to follow. It's known as var underscore timestamp. So this is the timestamp for that we use. Now here we are done, right? But we know that we have to add the parameters name also. So it creates one more variable here. So I will give the name as var underscore parameters 1. It can be that in BIP report we can have multiple parameters. That's why I given the parameters 1, 2, 3, something like that. And now what will be the value for the parameters? So it can be that in your integrations you can configure all these in lookups and all. So as of now, I'm just going to make it more simple. We know that how to extract from lookup. So if in your integration you can utilize that lookup logics too. So this is our parameters name. Now what will be the parameters value? And we know that the parameters value we will receive in the request payload only. So no need to create variables and all, because the request payload will be accessible all over our these integrations. So that's done. So we have this field, that's fine. I'm just going to click outside, and whatever remaining variables we require in our upcoming integrations, we'll add one by one. So now here you can see we know that we have to invoke the web services, right? And it can be possible that while invoking we can have some errors and all. As we know that we can have that error. So in general practice purpose, whatever logic you want to build the logic in a scope. So there can be two useful cases for the using the scope. So the very first will be if you will get an error, you can handle that error, and another one will be later you want to add multiple logics in your integrations, then you can use the scopes to remove all this in one places in a single time. So I'm just going to add a scope here, and I will give the name to this scope is main scope, because this is the main is very first scope we created. So I will give the name as main scope. So now, okay, so now we added the scope here, and in the scope, whatever logic we have to do, we will do all this logic inside the scope only. So now the very first what we have to do, we just have to invoke the web services. To invoke the SOAP web services, we already created the connection. So let me copy the connection name. And but that before that, I have to add one more thing, where underscore parameter 1. That's the name we given. What was the parameters 1? This one. And where is this is our connection name. This is the connection name. Now here I will just use the connections here. And these connections, we know that going to run the SOAP services. So what kind of SOAP services? For that, whatever URL we given in the connection, that specific SOAP service it will invoke. So here we have to give the name. So I just want to know that we know that it's going to invoke the BIP reports. I will give the name as run report. Underscore SOAP. Run report is the operations or the action of this SOAP services, and SOAP is the name of the connection. So click on continue. And here we have to select the operations. So what operations we have to select? So you cannot blindly select the operations. So whatever like operations you are going to perform, you have to select. That's why we generally tested one this case says in our SOAP services. If you will see, the select service is that external report WSS services, and the port is the same external report WSS services, and where the operations. So what operations we have to select? If we go to this SOAP URL, you can see the very first is that here where these are the field. You can see here external report WSS services. So inside the external WSS services, we have our lots of operations, and which operation we utilize? We utilize operations as run report. The same thing you will find that operation as run report. So similar thing we have to select it here. So here you will click on this drop down and you will select that run report. You can see get security model, get BIP HTTP personal interval, get run report, get report definitions, and also select the run report. Same thing you will be able to find here listed here, right? Get security model, get template, and all. So now we selected the run reports. Once we selected the run reports, you can see report output here. This is the object for which we will get the response. And here, these are the fault. The fault is that this web services having already fixed number of errors. So that's they given here. What error you can have? You can have that access denied exceptions error. You can have that optional failed operation failed exceptions error, invalid parameters exceptions, and all, right? And all these three errors you are able to see. I can show you that where these three will be reflected and what's the use of the three. So now click on continue and finish. Here you can see I don't want to if you want to configure any headers and all, you can put it here yes, yes, otherwise let it be the same. So what header means? This is the headers. Right now you can see in our SOAP there is nothing, right? In header we don't have anything. But in cases, some cases, it can be possible that in your SOAP web services, we have the headers. So then in this case, you will select yes here, and then you will add the headers here, either it's SOAP header or the HTTP headers and all. Right. So as of now, we don't have. I will go from click on continue, and you can see the services and all whatever we have, we are displaying here. Just click on finish. Now the SOAP service is added here, right? Add the SOAP added here. If you will go, this is a scope, right? And we know that here we can have error. If you will go inside that, here you can see the fault. If you want to add a fault handler, you will see this three error: access denied exception SOAP, operations failed exception SOAP, invalid parameters exception SOAP, and the last we have default. So default is saying that whatever error it will have, that will be captured in the fault handler. Or if you will select a specific fault handler related to error, so if your endpoint will have that specific error, then only control will move inside that scope, inside the fault handler. Otherwise, it will not move and it will make that integration as an error. So I don't want to use any of this. I just will go for the default. But as of now, I will not add a scope here. I will show you that where we have to add a scope. Now here, what we have done, we added the SOAP services. Now in the parameters, we have to provide the mapping, right? So where to map mapping? That's why we have this mapper. So just edit this mapper here. So mapper help us to provide the value to the endpoint, right? So the SOAP connection endpoint we added, that SOAP connection endpoint we get what kind of feeds, what kind of values. That's why here we have the mappers. For this mapper, you can see we have body. If you will expand the body, you will be able to see the run report. So this is the same you are able to see here. This is the body. Inside the body, you have run report, and then inside the run report, you will get that request. So I'm just going to expand here. You will be able to see that report request. And then we have app parameters. And if you remember, we had lots of things after that which we deleted, right? We deleted lots of things that if you want to see, so just click here, and I will show you that new request. Here you can see in the report request, we have the report request, and in the report request, after the request, we have one field as app parameters, which we already deleted. This is the same you are able to see, but we have to go inside the report request. So if you will expand in the report request, the very first thing you will get that XDO properties list. If you will expand here, you will be able to find the same thing here. You can see XDO properties list. And if you will expand this XDO property list, you will find the value at metadata list. Inside the metadata, we have name, values, and all. Similar thing you can see. Report property list, then we have metadata, and in the metadata, we have name, values. Right? So we don't want to do anything, that's why we deleted. So I will not go here. So similar thing, if you will search, you will be able to find all these details. But what details we need, whatever we use while testing, we will use that one only. So while testing, we use that attribute format. So this is the attribute format we use. So as of now here, where we have to find the attribute format. So this is the attribute format here, right? And this attribute format, we have what value we are passing. CSV, you can pass anything. So as of now, I'm just going to make it CSV only. So I'm just going to right click here, and you can provide the value here, the attribute format. So either you can provide directly hard coded here, or just go back and create the variable for that, right? As we are creating variable for each and everything. So here in the default, I will create one more variable as report output format. Report output format. And what is the report output format? Let me give as var also. And we know that the output format is CSV. That's done, right? So we created one more variable. I'm just going to make that as in our notepad. Now here, after that, what we have done, we added the scope, and the scope we added this one, and here we have to provide the mapping. So in the mapping, I'm just going to add all these details. Sorry, this is not the connectivity properties. We have to do anything. This connectivity properties, if you will have any add header and all, you will be able to see here. So as of now, we don't have. Just go to body, expand that. Here you can see for that whatever we open and create a node, it's in highlighted one, right? So here you can see we added the node for this attribute format. That's right click create target node, and now here we have to provide the value. From where we have to provide the value? From the variable. So we created one of the variable, that's report output format. I will map it here. Just save. So now this got mapping done. So after the report output format, attribute format, what we have mapped? We map the value for that. So and where is the value? So you can see, sorry, after that we added the parameters. So after this attribute format, we have that parameters name value node. So just find that parameters name value node. So just go scroll down, and here you can see we have the latest parameters name value, and inside that we have items. So we have to go for same, just expand this, and inside that you can see we have item, and item you can see is array. I remember I told you that if your report having multiple parameters, you just have to report this item multiple times. So that's why here you have the array element. So as of now we have only one report, one parameter, that's why it's fine. If you have multiple parameters, then just click right click here and you can go for repeat node. So once you will click on repeat node, same thing will create twice. So you can see now here we have item two times. So if your reports having two parameters, then you will just repeat these two, right? And here we have two parameters, for example number of this one and that invoice something. So similar way you will do there. So you will just create the targeted duplicated node, right? So as it didn't require, I'm just going to delete this one as of now. So now inside the item, if you will see inside the item, we have field as a name. So where we have to provide the parameters name. So just expand these items and find the name. So if you will expand the items, we have lots of fields that we have earlier and which we already deleted from here. So now here we have to go inside the item, we have to go for name. So just search here, you will be able to find the name here. We have the name, and you can see name having the array. If you will expand, you will find few more things. So we'll expand, you will be able to see the value, right? So name. So I'm just going to inside this name, we have to provide the value, and this value coming from where? From variable. So what is the variable we have? Parameters one. So this is the parameters. I'm just going to make it here. So now name got mapped. After name, what we have done? So after name, if you will see, we have node as values, and inside the value we have item where we have to map the data. So inside after name, just go for values and then find the items. So after name, we'll just go for value, expand this, and in the value you will see the items. So why we have items array? If you remember, we can have multiple values for same parameters. So that's why we have items here multiple times. So this item is something that we have to provide the value here, right? So just where from where we will provide the value. So for this name, we know that this 4 is coming from the request payload. So I will just expand this request wrapper here. And you can see total row is our request payload. That if you will see here in our notepad, this total row is our request wrapper, right? So just we drag this into items. So similar way here we map here. We mapped here, right? Name, value, inside that item will have the value. So now this mapping we have done. After that, you can see we came outside the item. So I'm just going to minimize that items too. So this is done. Where is this item? So this item is outside the value. So where is the value? So this is the value that's done. And after that, we have the name, and name is under the items. This is the item. I'm just going to minimize that one. So this is done. And after this, you can see the item. This after this item, what we have after the items, we have this next thing, which is the parameters name value. So search for parameters name value. Oh, sorry, this one. Then this is the end of parameters name value, right? Which we have. So just minimize this one. So just then after parameters name value. After the parameters name value, the next field we have to go for, that is report absolute path. Just find that report absolute path. If you go below, you will be able to see that report absolute path. Just right click here and provide the path. So from where you will provide the path. So either you can just map the value here, or otherwise, if let me delete this node, delete target node, you can see it's in gray out. Just drag the variable. So we have that report path. This report path, I will map it here. So report absolute path got mapped here. Till here we done the mapping. Now the last point is size of data chunk download. So as of now, I'm just going to extract all the records, whatever we have from BIP reports. That's why I will pass the size of data chunk download as -1. So where is the field? So if you will go to data, yeah, we have the field as size of data chunk download. Right click here, click on target nodes. As we don't have any variable to hold this value, I will provide the hard coded here. -1 in single quotes, so that it can be considered as a string or anything what you want. So now you can see we provided mapping for all these. And if you will try to observe, just go to the code here. This is the code. And in the code, you will find the same thing. So if you will go for body, let me copy from the body only. And here, if I will paste, you will be able to find same thing. Body, and then we have report, then we have report request. You can see body, report, run report, report request, After request repost, we have attribute format. This is the value for attribute format coming from variable. After attribute format, we have the parameters name, then value, then name. Same you can find it. Parameters name, items, name, and then value. All these, right? These all are the same thing which we given. So I'm just going to delete this, was unnecessary. Just for explaining you, I added here. Now here you can see we provided the mapping. That mapping are there. That's fine, right? I'm just going to back here. Now this got validated. I'm just going to save. So now we provided the mapping. Let me make a note of that. So here we added the variable. After that variable, next step, add a scope, add main scope in which we will build our logic. Okay, and then after that, what we have done, EF. Inside the scope, what we have done, inside the scope, first we added the SOAP connections to invoke the BIP report. Okay, so here we just add the SOAP connections to invoke the BIP report. Then after we added the mappers, right? Mapper was there, we provided the value. So in the next, map values in SOAP mapper. And what value we given? We given values for report output format, and then we given the report parameters name, values, and then we added the report directory, and then we given the data chunk download. So till now we are done with this all step, right? So after that you can see once this will be invoked, it will return data in base 64 code. Right? We know that it will return data in base 64 code, and that base 64 code we have to convert. So as for generate, when we done manually, we converted using this way. But in OIC, how you will convert? So in OIC to convert this, we have two options. The very first options, you can utilize that functions. There is one functions name as decode base 64 code to file reference. I can show it here. I just open the random mapper so that I can display you the functions. Here we have functions name as decode. You can see the function name is decode base 64 to reference. So this will convert our base 64 code into actual file reference. So this is the very first option. Another option is that in Oracle we have opaque schema concept. I will show you that. Opaque schema will convert that base 64 code into actual file reference. It means that opaque schema will take you the data, the request as an Excel, as a base 64 code, and it will convert that base 64 code data into the actual file reference. So how it will work, I'm just going to show you here. So somewhere in the Aura doc here we have, this is the template or this is the code for the opaque schema. I'm just going to copy here and I will just show you guys. This is the code. This is the XML code for opaque schema. So opaque schema is nothing but it's a code which will convert base 64 code into actual file reference. In the code, if you will see, I can show you, let me make it as XML. Here you can see the target name space, all this. This is a syntax for XML, no need to go here. Just element, you can see the name as opaque element, and what it will do, it will just do that base 64 conversion. The type is that base 64 code. So this is the just a small code to convert into the file reference. So just I'm going to make it save here. So I'm just going to save this code. So here, and this file name can be anything, right? You just have to make, and this is the XML type. So I given, so it will be XML, but we have to save at XSD. That is the XSD schema. Save. So now our schema file is ready. This schema will help us to convert the file. where to use that schema, how to utilize that schema. So that's why Oracle provided the flexibilities of a stage file, because we know that what this schema will do. This schema will take request as a base64 code, and it will convert the base64 code into actual file. And we know that in OIC, if we have to create file, we require a stage file operations, that is stage file action. That stage file action is the one which will create file in OIC. So our purpose is to create the file from this response. For that, we will add the stage file. So I'm just going to add a stage file here. The stage file, and here we have to give the name. So I just want to give the name as write report byte. Write means create, right? As we are going to create, use write file operation, that's why I given the name as write report byte underscore stage. Just going for next. And here what we have to do, obviously we have to write means we have to create the file. So I'm just going to give the write here. And while creating the file, what file name you want to give? So as I told you that we want to create a file where I will add the timestamp. I want to add the timestamp in the file. So we have to use concat. I'm just going to use concat here. Concat ap underscore file here FOAS underscore ap invoice. And here we have to add the timestamp. So timestamp we already created. I will just add the timestamp here. Where is the timestamp? Add this one. And this is the file we are going to create. And we know that in a stage file, if you have to create file, you have to give the file extension in the file name only. So this will be the timestamp. After that, it will be .csv. So as we have that, we have the file we are going to create. That file is CSV file, and that CSV we know that where it is. CSV is there in the variable, right? The report output format. So I'm just going to add one comma here. That's why I added new parameters, comma dot. Here we have to add the report output format and then bracket comma. So this concat will create file name with this, that FOS and the AP underscore invoice underscore timestamp dot, and this will be the CSV from this variable. Now here where we have to create the file. So once file will be created, where it will be placed. So a stage file will place the file in OIC virtual directory, that we have to provide the directory. So you can provide directory any directory here. I will give the directory as AP5. That's the answer. Just to make a note here. Directory, this one, name, file name here. And now I just don't want to append anything here as of now, because we are going to create fresh file. So that's fine. Just click on continue. Now here you can see what will be the schema of the file which we are going to create, because we don't know the schema of the file, what it can be. That whatever base64 code will return, the base64 code is CSV, XML and all. This state file is not aware about, right? So that's why we have to go and we have to select the schema as XSD schema here. You can see XML schema, which is bracketed in XSD document. So that you have to select. So because in the XSD schema, as of now, we are not aware about, just because we are going to use the opaque schema. And this opaque schema, opaque file is not aware about that what kind of file it is, what is the type of that file, and how many records are there, nothing. The code of this, the work of this code is just to convert that the base64 code into actual file. Nothing else. It's not going to read at all. So that's why here we selected the XSD schema. Just going to click on continue. And here we have to select the schema. So we already created a schema file saved. So I'm just going to move to this file where it is. So here we created the schema named that opaque schema file.xsd. So just click on OK. And that you can see here we have that the schema element as opaque element, which opaque element we selected here. This is opaque element. So now I'm just going to click on continue, and all these details were given. That's fine. I'm just going to finish. Now you can see the stage file got added here. So let me make a note of the step. So here after that providing the mapping, we just have to add a stage file. Add stage file with Opaque schema so that report output base 64 code can be decoded to file reference. What was the name of that functions? The name of that function was decode base 64 to file reference. Let me just make a note of that one. That is decode base 64 to reference. So we can utilize this predefined OIC predefined functions also, right? Yeah. So now here we added, and what details we passed here? We passed these two details, right? And we provided the opaque schema structure. XSD. So these three, but before starting our integration as a prerequisite, we have to prepare that XML schema tool, right? That opaque schema tool. So I will just give the value here in the second step, prepare web services, and second will give the value as prepare opaque schema XSD file. So which we already created, so that's fine. Now here we added this thing. So in this step, if you will see, it will invoke the BIP report. It will get the base64 code. That base64 code will converted here, and it will be converted and generated the file here. Now we have the file. If you want to read the content of file, that's fine. You can just add a stage file. If you don't want to read the file and directly you want to place the file to a specific file server, no need to read or no need to do anything. You can just add FTP connections to write the file to file server. So as of now, just will develop integration by step. So I will not do anything to write the file at file server or something, right? So our next step is to read the content of the file so that the content of the file we can return as response in the response, right? So obvious to read any file, what we need file schema, right? And we will use that file schema in our CSV file, in a stage file. So where you will get the file schema, that the file is coming from BIP. So the very simple way is that this is the BIP report. Just export this one. Export the sample file. So I'm just going to make is one record so that it will be what we can say, the very light file. So here we got this error just because we have to refresh. I'm just going to refresh or load, provide the password again. Let's see. I just have to navigate to the report again to download. Or simple way can be that I have already this decode file and this is the same thing. I can create CSV file using that one also. So I'm just going to utilize that one. So this is a sample file. So not sample file is what, like this is the actual file which we are going to get in response, that CSV, right? So no need to pass all this. Only one row, there's only comma, that column can also be fine. So this is the sample file. I'm just going to save here. So this is the same thing you have to ask from the developer who developed the report. If you want to utilize the report developed by other developer, that what kind of values are there, just give me the export of the sample report output so that you can use in your stage file. So here I will give the name as, let me create one more folder, AP invoice report, and here I will create the files. We'll give the name as AP invoice report CSV simple out. And that obviously it will be CSV files. I will give this extend text also as CSV. That's it. And this is the schema of the file which we are expect to read. So I'm just going to use this one. So here I will add one more prerequisite, that prepare CSV file schema for report output. Okay. So now here, the next step, what we have done, we have to read the content of this file. So to read the content of the file, we need that stage file again, a stage file action. So the stage file action is there here, right? So this is the stage file. I'm just going to drag this stage file here. So now here, what we have to do, we just have to, what we can say, give the name to endpoint. So this endpoint is going to read the data. So I will give the name as read report byte, but not report byte, report file, because byte got converted into file here using this report file, and this is a stage. So I will give the name as the stage. Continue. And here we have to select the file operations. So what you want to do, you want to read all this file, all the records in single hit. That obviously we have to go that using the operation and read the entire file. And we know that we have another file that is region segment, which will read the file data into different segment. So I will just go and will select the read entire file here as of now. And here configure a file reference, yes or no. So we know that this opaque schema which we use in that write file, it will return as the file reference, which I was showing, right? That opaque schema will convert basically for code and it will make it as a file reference. So yes, we have the file reference. So I will use this file reference. Even you can use the file name and directory also. So for how you will use, we know that while using the stage file, we given the file name, we given the directory where the file will be created. So same these two you can utilize here. Otherwise, we have the file reference. We can utilize the file reference too. So yes, we have the file reference. I will make it as yes. Now here we can provide the file reference. So once you will select that yes checkbox, you will see that options to provide the reference. Otherwise, if you will go for no, it will ask you the file name and directory. So instead of providing the file name and directory, obviously we know that we have the reference, so you can directly pass the reference. So I will select yes, click here. So it will open you the input source tab, and here you have to select the reference. And we know that from where we are going to get reference, we are going to get the reference where we created the file, and we created the file using the write report byte, this one, right? So just find the same node. You can see write report byte underscore stage. Just expand this one. Inside this one, here you can see the same thing, ICS file. If you will expand the ICS file, you will see the file reference. And obviously, if you have to provide the file name and directory, just go to the properties and you will be able to see these two. The file name, directory, and all. Right, so I'm just going to drag this file reference here. So I given the file reference, which file we want to read. Now here, do you want to remove any trailer here and there? No, I don't want to remove any trailer. Do you want to decrypt? No, it's already like a decrypted file. No need to go for that. Just click on continue. Now here you can see it's asking the schema to read. So what kind of file that we want to read? We know that the file is CSV that we want to read. So that CSV by default we have that simple type as CSV. That's fine. Just click on continue and it will ask you to provide the CSV file schema, and which that schema we already created here. That schema, right? This one. So that's we have to provide there because this is the actual report output. So now just I'm going to upload that file schema. So inside that AP invoice folder I created, here we have the schema. I'm just going to select OK. Now here you can see we given this details. As we know that whenever we are uploading file, all the columns in the file listed below, and all this file by default, all the columns will be mandatory. We have to make it optional if obviously required. So I'm just going to make it optional for practice purpose, better purpose, so that we didn't get error if even we don't have value in the record. So now at least one column need as a primary, right? One column at least required as a primary column, right? So that mandatory column. So I'm just going to make that invoice ID as a primary column because we know that invoice ID can't be null in that fuser. So just going to make it mandatory. Here we have to provide the node name that will be record. This record name I will give the node name as RN for record name, and it will give the name record set name as RSN. So that record set name. You can pass anything, even you can give your name also. So that's not any issues. But just obviously we are following the project schema structures. Finish. So now we added a stage file to read the content of the file which we already created using the Opaque schema. Alright, so let me add this in my notepad. So now what we have done in the next step, we add a stage file with read file presence to read the content of the file generated in above step by stage file. So now this one have, and in this case, right? So we added the stage file with opaque schema with operations. What operation we given? The write file operation and added opaque schema so that that can be converted. So that's fine. And here, while reading what we provided the file reference and the report output CSV format, which should be same as the node. So now we added all this. So in this step, in the response of this node, we will have the report data. And that report data, whatever operations you want to perform, you can perform. So as of now, we don't want to perform any operations. We just have to take account of this records and all, right? That count we have to send in the response here. Where is the count? Here, total records count, right? So that's only we have to do. So that's done. So all these steps we added, which will perform the actions. And now obviously, this is the scope, and this scope can have error while invoking and anything. To just prevent this that can have the error, we can add the fault handler. So I'm just going to add the fault handler here. And what you want to do in the fault handler, simply, for example, I want to send an email notifications and all, so we can add that email notification here. I will show you that one too. So now we done, right? This we added all these things, and in that one we have to return the report this data. So to return the data, obviously we have this mapper here. So before returning the data, I just want to return the, I just want to send that email notification with the same file and all. So we know that to send the notifications, we have the notification actions. And in the notification, what details we require? In the notifications, we require the to email, we require from email, we require subject and all, right? So the to email and from email, let me add in the variable here. So I'm just going to create variable with the name as where to email, to whom we have to send an email. And here, let me add the email name. I will give my name, email, anzadkr@gmail.com. Another one that false dot gmail.com. So I given the email to whom we have to send the notifications, and I have to create one more variable. I will give that by which this email will send. So where from email, and from email obviously generally I will using that no reply at oracle.com. So this is the variable we created. So where email and to email. I'm just going to add this two variable name in the notepad, in our notepad. Where underscore from email to email was there, right? There was to email, and it was like at oracle.com, and then we had where underscore from email. We given the email name, right? So we given our email name. So this two email we given here, right? In the variables. Now that's done. I'm just going to add the notifications. So here we have to add the notifications. So I'm just going to click on this plus here, and now I will select the notifications. And in the notifications, what all we have to do, I'm just going to make a note here. Now JK add the notification action to send an email. In email, what we will have to do, we have to add to email, from email, body, subject, email subject, email body, and in body if you want to any runtime values, obviously we have to go for parameters, and then we have to add the file reference. So I'm just going to add file reference and file reference, and then the parameters if we have, right? So all these we have to add. So now this is our email notification. I'm just going to add, and to email we know that we created one variable which is going to hold the to email. From here I will just add the variable that we created from this is the from email. And now subject. So what subject I want to pass? So I want to pass subject as what we can select. Say add that the concat status of AP invoice outbound integration and integration, and here we have to pass the status, but the status can be dynamic, right? For these notifications it can be success or it can be error, but we know that if our control comes here, it means that our integration flow is success. So here I will give the value as su double c double s success, and when we will add this email notifications in fault handler, then we will make it as an error. So I'm just going to make this subject here, this, right? And now here we have to give the body. So if you remember last time we were generally typing the message, whatever message we want to give. But in email notifications, Oracle having the flexibilities that you can write the XML code, that HTML code. So I have already prepared a simple notifications template that you can also utilize. So this is the simple XML code, HTML code. That HTML code you can write in this notification so that the email body will be in the format, whatever will be the output format for this code, the HTML code. So let me edit this HTML code as per our requirement. So I will show you here live HTML editor. So here you can see I'm just going to pass the code. You can see this is the output for this our XML code, the HTML code, sorry. So once you will give this XML code in that email, so your email output will be like this one, right? Dear recruitment team, and also instead of that I just want to make that dear AP team, their accounts, their accounts payable team, please find below details for the invoice. And also I want to add one line which will mention that the attachment. Email invoice configuration run. So this is the message I want to display. All this I have given here. Now this is the field I want to display. So that I want to display the field just like the very first field. I want to display that the integrations name, integrations runtime, time, parameters, and all these things, right? So how will do there? So this is the code here, right? So the code, if I will copy here, I can show you this one. You can see, if you are aware about that HTML, basic of the HTML, you will get to know this table node start from here. It's saying that we are going to create the table, and this is saying that we are going to create table header, that that table head mentioning this part, and then here we have columns, right? So these two columns I can show you here. So here we have two fields. That's why in the TR table row we have two columns, that table header and table details, the table data. So header is something that we have the bold values and all, and this table data. So you can see here these two fields having different kind of values, right? So one having the white color and the background as blue, and this is having the simple one. So how it's defined? It's defined by the JavaScript code written above. You can see that XML. Where is this? This one. That style we added here. So for table, whatever tag we will use, this will be the the border for that, if you will make that border as 2, so you can see it will be a bit bold. So that all the logic obviously you can build. Like I'm not going to explain you this XML, HTML, but just for brief. Table header, what will be the color and all. Here you can see we have the table color and all table data for this one. So this is the simple code for this, right? So let me make this headers as 2px. Now, so now here the candidate name, instead of candidate name, I just want to give the name as integration name. And here we'll make, this is the parameters at runtime we have to change, so that this integration's name will be the fixed value and this candidate name instead of that integration name will be the runtime. That's why we require parameters, right? So I will give the parameters here. Integration name. And the next field I just want to give that integrations identifier. We know that the parameters of variable we are creating that doesn't have the space. That's why I don't have the space here. That's why you can use a space if you want to specialize that one. The integration identifier, I just want to add one more field as integration version. P underscore and integration version. And after these 3 details, I just want to give the summary. Summary, it means that the status of integration. So I will give the message as status. So status I will give in the last. Before that, I just want to give the parameters value. Parameters. Parameters value I will directly give that. And what is the parameters name? So parameters name is that report parameters. Parameter 1 value. And this value will get as a runtime. So we'll give the value here. Report parameters. And after that, I just want to add more columns, that more row, and that more row that I want to give that total number of record. Total number of records, and we give the value as total records. And with the state, now I'm just going to give the status. The making more bit simple here. 2 fields, that is status and message. Status and the process message. For this process message, variable will be that process message, and this will be a status something. So this is the code I just want to use in our notifications. So what will be the real this view? So I'm just going to show you here this one, right? This kind of view will be there. And obviously this, there will be attachment in this email. I mean, whatever the XML code, HTML code you can write to make notification more attractive, you can utilize that. There is no limit for that. So this is fine. I will replace this all this with the values. So I'm just going to use this one in our XML notifications. So where is our integrations? So this is our integrations page. So here we have to give the body. In the body we give in, and whatever we use as a p underscore, that we want to change it at runtime, right? So we have to create the parameters for that. So obviously to create parameters, here we have the parameters. So I'm just going to click on plus and we'll add all the parameters one by one. So what the parameters? The very first parameter is the integrations name. And from where this integration name will have the value we will have from the metadata. That's safe. Inside the metadata integrations, this will be the name here. Let me add one more column here. I forgot to add that integration instance. Integration instance and file name. Integrations instance instance ID. Instance ID and then the file name. Output file name. Here we just have to pass. Right, so this is the actual final code. I will remove the old code from here. I will give the new code now. Parameters we already created. This is the second parameters which we have to create. The parameters is TP integration identifier. So we are just going to create, and where we will get the identifier again in the metadata. And identifier will come from this integrations only. This is the identifier. I'm just going to add. After that, we have the parameters. The very next parameter is that integration version. I will give, and that version also I will get it from the integrations metadata. that the version we given. So this three parameters is done. Now next parameter is the integration instance. So we'll go to create new parameters here. And instance, we know that it will be from that integration metadata runtime. That you will remember while working on this. So no need to just worry about that. And after that, the next parameter is that there you can see we given the wrong parameters name cannot have that space, right? So just put file name. So just going to create parameters with this name. And what will be the file name? And we know that file name is coming from the right file. So this is the right file we use. In the right file, if you will go ICS file reference, and that here we have the properties. So this is the name. Where is the file name? This file name here. So just going to use it here. And here you can see we change the value, but in the value in the our code that is the old values, which this is not the correct one. So I'm just taking copy here. I'm just going to change the code, which is the wrong parameters code. So I'm just going to delete this one and paste it here. So we created the output file name variables too. After that, what we have that output file name. Then we have the report parameters. So this is the report, and we know that the report parameters value where we are getting as a request payload. So this is the total row we are getting. So I'm just going to map it here. Now explained. And the total number of records. So this is the variable we have. And from where we will get the total number of records? We know that we already read the file. Then only you will get to know that whatever inside that one. So if you will go to read the file endpoint, read report file, if you will expand, here you can see that we given the record set name. Inside that we have the record name. And you can see this is the array element, right? This is saying that how many that columns we have for the report output that which we read, and this array is saying that these columns will repeat. It means that we have the multiple rows, and we know that to find the how many rows are there, we have the one functions the count, which will take the array element and it will return us the total number of records for the array. So I will use one function, that function name as count. You can directly write or you can take it from here, the count. And what it will ask, the node, repeated node. Why it's not coming here? Yeah. And what node we have to set? Node set that we know that this RN is the node set name. So we given that the total record here. And after total record, what we have? We have this status. And we know that this time status is success because we are adding this notification in the success scenario. And this is the process message, the last parameters. And what will be the process message? I just want to make it more simple as integration has been completed successfully. In error case, we can provide the error message here just by taking from the fault handler. So that's we added, right? So body done, subject done, all this done. We just have to add attachment. And what attachment we have to add? Whatever file we generated, that file we have to add as an attachment. So I'm just going to add attachment here. Click here, and it will ask the file reference. And that we know that from where we'll get the file reference, from where we created the file. Created the file means we write the file. So this is the node, right? Report by expand this one. You will get that ICS. Inside the ICS, we have the file reference. I'm just going to drag it here. Now we are done with the notifications, right? Just click outside. We have this error. Let me check that what is this error. Somewhere we have done any mistake. Okay, so we have error in this subject only. So here you can see as we use the concat functions, and that concat function should have minimum 2 parameters. But we know that here we have not added any dynamic value, right? Any value we have not concatenated. So we don't require that concat function anymore. I'm just going to delete this here. So now just click outside, the error will be resolved. You can see that's got resolved. But here you can see the name of the node is notification1, which is not the correct one, right? So correct means that this is not the correct practice, good practice. I'm just going to make it rename. I'm going to change this name as uh, success notification. That's done. Click outside. So now here we added, right? So we added the notification to send an email notification. So let me add this step in our notepad. Okay, this we already added here, right? So after that, let's go and see. So we added the fault handler, but in fault handler we have not added anything. So in the fault handler we can also pass the same thing, right? So I will add one more thing. Same notifications here, but with the error message. So notification, and we'll give the name to this endpoint as error notifications, so that whenever control will come inside, obviously we will get to know that that is the error. So to here we have to map to email, from email, subject, and obvious subject we have to mark it as error. So we don't require this concat functions here anymore, right? So let's delete. This time it will be error. In body, so again in the body also we have to pass same thing. Where is this template? Yeah, this is the email address. We need to pick it here. And all the parameters we have to add one by one. So I'm just going to add the parameters here, just like the very first parameters we have the integration name. And again, obvious from where we'll get the name of the integrations, obvious in the sales metadata, the self metadata. So if you will expand, you will get to know another. Similar way, we can add all the parameters. So we have the email notifications. In the email notifications, let's see that what we receive. So we received this email and stating that integrations completed in error. SF001 error while processing activity stage file, unable to extract the report output, right? That it's not able to make it save. So let me see that what we have done. So maybe we have error in this in the what we can say, okay, schema. I'm just going to check it. Just deactivate this integration. Ah, so obviously we will have the error, right? So we invoke the BIP reports. We invoke the BIP reports. We added the file to write the file, but where is the mapping? I think we have not provided the mapping here. I just remember. Yeah, you can see we have not provided the mapping. It means that the opaque schema will convert the file, right? Convert the base64 code. But which base64 code? We have not provided the value to this node, right? So this is the stage file. In the stage file, we added the opaque schema, but opaque schema, what kind of data it will convert, right? So the data we have to provide in the mapping, and in the mapping we have not provided anything. We missed to provide the mapping, right? So that's why in the mapping you will see we have the opaque element, and this opaque element is the same we had in the opaque schema. Here you can see the opaque element. So that's why we are getting error that it's not able to convert or it's not able to make the file as right. So we got the error. Now here, just where is the report output? So report output, if you will see, we have the SOAP call. In the SOAP response, you will be able to see that report run report, right? You can see run report return, and this is the report byte as a base64 code. This is the one which we have to convert, right? The node name is report byte. So just go there. This is the run report SOAP response. Expand this one. And here, if you will expand this and this expand also, you will be able to see that report byte, report content type, report file ID, report locator, and all. And you can see same here we have, right? Report byte, report content type, report file ID. All these file ID are null just because we pass the report content as the content of the chunk download as -1. And in that -1, it will return all the data. If you will pass any positive value, it will display the data here, right? File ID and all these things. So as of now, I'm just going to skip it here. So this is the report byte. That report byte we have to map. So opaque schema will take report byte, which is base64 code, as a request, and it will convert this base64 code into actual file reference using the stage file operations that we use as a write file. So now it's done. I'm going to save. And here you can see as we got error here, control move here inside that, and in the inside it send an email notification, and after sending the email notification it's move outside the scope, and in the outside the scope we added this mapper, and using this mapper, that's the display we are getting in the response with the help of this mapper only. So just going to back here and running the integrations again. Going to make it save. So now this is our integration. I'm just going to run the integrations. So again, in the body, we have to pass. Let me pass this time as 9. So I'm expecting that it should return the file with having 9 rows, and in response also we should receive the 9 records. You can see integrations got completed. We don't have any error in the integrations, right? So if you will show, this is the response I will explain. And but if you will see here, we created default variable here, few of the variables. And after that, we invoke the SOAP call. In the SOAP call, we receive the base64 code. That base64 code we pass to the right file. And here you can see received by right file. It means that what we have passed to this node. If you will open, you will be able to see the same base64 code as a opaque schema. In the Opaque schema, what we have? We have the base64 code. And this base64 code will be converted using Opaque schema and generated a file using this write file. If you will see the response, in the response, you can see the file reference. This is the file reference generated by converting the file using Opaque schema. This is the file name we created, that .csv. This is the file tab .csv. This is the directory as /API we given in the general directory, and this is the size of the file and last modification that we are receiving while writing the file. And after that, if you will see here, after after writing the file, we added read file operations of the stage file. And the read file operations, if you will explain what we pass, we pass the value in the configuration only as a file reference, and it will return as the data. So this is the data it's written. If you will see, we know that in OIC loggers everything it's automatically converted to XML. So you can see this is the report data we receive. And this data, whatever data we receive as a response, we just assign the same data to global variable, and then global variable we provide the mapping in the response. You can see after this data, here we added the assign, and in the assigns we assign the value to the global variable. You can see assign report response, and there is for a stitch what value you assign, and this is the same value read response we assign to that variable, right? So that variable holds all this value. And what we have done with this, so whatever value variable hold, that we return in the response. So after assigning the value to the global variable, we added the notification. So this is the notifications. In the notifications, we have the data. So let me see that if we are able to see that something. Yeah. So this is the notification. If you will see that message sent by notifications, what notification we send. So this is the email we send, right? If I will copy, I can show you here. Where is this one? This one. Let me delete this. Yeah. So this slash is, where is this slash? So everywhere this slash came. So this one we have the XML file, and you can see the message. Please find below details for integration. This is one attachment is also there, and you can see the details: integrations name, integrations identifier, version, instance ID. That's 2O2QQ. Same you can see O2QQ. Where is this one? And here the file name, this is the file name 544.csv generated, total number of record, parameters 9, number of record 9, success and integration details, right? And now I'm going to show you this one. So after sending notifications, what we have done, we have added the mappers, that is start rest mapper, which return the data. If we expand, you will be able to see the same value here, XML mapping, right? So we map the same value to that. And if I can show you here, you can see this is the same value we send as a response. And here we are able to see the same value. If I can show you here, language, let me make a JSON. Here you can see this is the node integration details. The integration details having node having this value. That integration's name, identifier, version, success, integrations completed successfully message, BIP report details, the path, parameters name, value, number of records, and this is the data. Report, BIP report response, and this having the records. So if you will try to compare this one, if you will compare this, here you can see 1 record, 2 record, 3 record, 4 record, 5 record, 6, 7, 8, 9 records. So if you will pass here as 15, you will find 15 records in the response. 15 records. You can say somewhere in the message, yeah, you can say 15. That's you got to know. And now that's the problem we have with the SOAP. So here in the SOAP, you can see in the SOAP, what we have done. We have just used the read size of download chunk as a -1. Right? It means that all records we need in a single hit. And we know that SOAP services having own limitations. If you will find here, if you will pass here like something, 5 line, something, right? And let's see that it's so this number of record if we will receive that report will have the heavy data, large data, and in this case it can create problems. So no, this can also it works. This 5,000 record, maybe we don't have 5,000 record in the instance. Let's see that if we pass the higher value, we can get error. We are getting data. It means that in Fusion we don't have the record that much record for invoices. So let me convert it and check. I was just trying to generate error file data so that I can explain you another example. We have 4 records only. Why we are waiting for sorry. So size of data channel log it will be -1, and here in the number of records we have to pass. So let me pass 1,000, 10,000 and all. So this time it will return that number of row, and while returning that number of row, the data it will return that will be large data, right? And when it will be large data, it will go and it will exceed the response limit. So we know that SOAP services having on limitations of return data. So if the data will be more than 50 MB of size, it will generate an error. So if this number of record coming from report having less than 50 MB data, it will not generate an error. So let's see. So as we pass the large number of records, it's taking time to complete. So I'm just waiting to complete it here. There is, you can see it's exceeded, but we didn't receive the data. So go to external. I'm just trying. It got hang, I think, because of that long data, long running records and all. So let me pass the same through OIC. Let's see. So obviously our integrations will fail just because in the SOAP call only. But again, let me try here. I'm just going to pass that large number so that our SOAP call will fail. And now you can see for the success case which executed, we have that email notification. So let me show you that email also so that we can have that, we will be in the group state. Just going to show you. You can see this is our email notifications. So what we have in the email notifications, the same status as success here. And if you remember last time we received, which was obvious error, so that will be the error there. And in the notifications, we have the message that we added and the integrations details, that integration instance details, file name, number of record, status, and then the attachment. In the attachment, if you will see the file, whatever file we received, that's having the data. That's the same file. Like this. So how many records are there? We have total 9 records. So this is the very simple integrations we created where we handle all the logics. We added details to run the integrations and all, right? And also that SOAP endpoints having 4 minutes of time limitations. If it will go beyond that execution's time to read the report data, it can obviously will create an error. So to prevent all this, we will have another approach. The another approach is that instead of just directly reading the report data directly by using the run report, we can have another options where we can just read the report data into chunk by passing positive values here and iterating the same process again and again. Another option is that instead of using the external report WSS services, we can use schedule services. In the schedule services, it will schedule the report, and obviously at the time we require the report bursting. So in one of the sessions, I will show you that how you can burst the report output to file server, and that bursting you can use in OIC just to schedule the report, and bursting will place the file to file server, and you can list down the file from there. So that will show you that next session. And particularly next sessions, we'll go for FDI integrations for AP invoices. So we will cover all this. Just waiting to complete this integration. You know that app-driven integrations we are creating, it's having the time limitations. So time limitations means that it can be right now we can get two kinds of error. It can be possible. The very first error we got error while invoking the SOAP services. That SOAP services taking longer time. This can be one of the reason. Another can be that, for example, SOAP service taken 4 minutes of time to return the data. In 4 minutes, it's given us the data. Then after we done the operations to write the file, convert the file, read the file, and all right. And it can be possible that we got error that time. So if we will get error the time, our integrations will be terminated because it will be overall more than 5 minutes. Right. So now here you can see our integrations got completed. Now I'm just going to refresh to show you that issues. Now here you can see we got error while invoking the report. So as we got error while invoking the report, control will move outside this. Control will directly go to the fault handler, and in the fault handler, where here, right byte. Why we have this right byte? Yeah. So after this SOAP call, control will come inside this fault handler where this we have. Yeah. Control will come to the fault handler. In the fault handler, we added the notifications. Notification having the error message that perfectly fine. But you can see in the response, we got the status as success. So why we got a status as success, I will show you that reason also. Because that mapper we given outside the scope. So as we added the mapper outside the scope, that's why status is in success because outside the scope we map the status as success hard-coded value, right? So that's why here we have success and let's see that what's the error we have. This is the SOAP call. In the SOAP call, what message we passed here as a request? Request passed as this value and what's the response we received? So we got error and what's the error? You can see the response received has been rejected since the content received of the length this byte exceeded the maximum allowance threshold of this one, the 1000 MB. Sorry. So to invoke the SOAP services having 100 MB of size limit. It means that if your response size is more than 100 MB, it will generate an error. That's the case, right? We got error here in this case, just because our response data having more than 100 MB of size. So in this case, you cannot use run report operations if you know that your report data can have more than 100 MB. So in this case, you have two options. Either you can go and download the report data in chunk, or another is can be that you can use the scheduled services. So how you can download the report data into chunk? To download the report data into chunk, for example, here we got to know, right? So our report size is more than 100 MB, which is correct, right? So in that, what we have to do instead of minus value, you will pass any positive value. So positive values like I will pass, for example, 10,000, right? Yeah, 1 lakh. So I passed here. Instead of 1 lakh, we can pass 10,000 also here. 10,000. That's I want to pass. I want to have 10,000 of byte data in a single int, right? So now I'm just going to run this report. So once we will run the report, it will return 10,000 byte only. And after that, it will return few more fields too. I will show you here. So let's complete this one and I can show you. So as we didn't get values with this 10,000 here, I'm just going to try with 5,000. So 5,000 we will receive as soon as possible, as I remember. Maybe the SOAP UI tool is not allowing to go for the 10,000 also, 10,000 of bytes. So it's around 10 MB, but let's maybe that's due to that. I just want to show you that how it's like we can extract the report in chunk. So when we are passing the positive value, you can see that read timeout error we are getting. That 10,000 should be work, but maybe that report's taking longer time to go for that 10,000 record. In 5,000 also we didn't get, so let me go for 1,000 this time. And the number we pass, that's the byte. So we pass here as 1,000. Here 1000 also we are not getting. Let me check with 500. 500 byte it should return immediately. Why it's taking that much of time, bro? Missing data. What is the problem? Why it's not going? Okay, let me terminate this flow. Let me pass as 100. Okay, so here you can see. No. Okay, let it be. I'm just going to terminate. I'm just going to run the same through OIC only, right? So I will go in OIC. Then we have to update mapper. So let it be. I'm not going to update mapping as of now. Write file. Where is this write file? Okay. So here you can see if I'm passing here as 1000 record, you can say there is one of the example also we will find here. So we pass that 1000 here, 1000 when we will pass 1000 here, let's run the integrations. So what it's going to do, it's going to receive 1000 record. So that 1000 record it will receive from the BIP reports, and 1000 record having not than more than 100 MB of size as a base64 code. So it's giving us the data. So here you can see in the SOAP call we are successfully able to receive the data. That's the base64 code. You can see 135 KB, which is obviously less than, but here we are not able to see in the log just because it's having the log having the limitations. Now if we will go below, we successfully able to write the file, and we are saying that write the file, so it's created the file. And what size is created? You can see 101 MB of size. So this is the byte. If you will convert this byte, it will be something like this into MB. What is this? How many MB is there? Uh, this is this is 1 MB, 10 MB, or 100 MB. So this size is more than 100 MB. So maybe we will convert. Okay, let's go for the calculators. This is divided by 1024. You can see 98 MB, but generally it's taking 1000. One double we have, let me say, divided by 1000. So it's right 101 MB something. So just because it's more than 100 MB, and we know that in OIC we have limitations to read entire file. Read entire file cannot go beyond 100 MB of size limits. That's why we got error while reading the file. The error, if you will see here, that terminated by file and all something we receive wrong. Uh, Let me download the base64 code. This is the base64 code. This is just going to download it. This is 132 byte. I'm just going to open in Notepad. So this is the base64 code, and we got error while reading this base64 code only. Where is this one? Okay, we have this is the record we have. This is the our report data. So somewhere we have missing. What it's saying that. So maybe some record is missing here, or any field is not coming. That's why it's showing error. If we will pass less value, it will give us the data. For example, 100. So that also can be one of the reason, and that obvious just because we added all this, we handle that error. And in the error handler, we are receiving the notifications. So if you see, we should have error notifications too. You can see somewhere. Where is the error notification? Yeah, this one. You can see the error notifications. In the error notifications, the number of time we run the integrations, we have error. That error we are receiving in this notifications. I will check that one, that why this SOAP we are not able to see, and I will explain you that in also that when we'll go for using the BIP report for schedules. So this is and for today's, if anyone having any questions and want to ask anything, feel free to unmute yourself and ask. We'll have question hour session for 10 to 15 minutes. Yeah, please unmute yourself and ask your queries.
Yes, sir. Anand,
Yeah.
I said, hope you are able to hear me.
Yes, I'm able to hear you. Your voice
So,
is a bit low, but you're fine. You can say.
okay. Is it fine now?
Yeah, I'm able to hear you.
Yeah. So, just a question, Zafar. If
Yeah.
the data is missing, right? If I can see the current error
Mm.
where it has been mentioned that the vendor ID is creating an issue. So,
Mhm.
where we can check that means
Uh,
if the
okay.
file is coming from the customer. Yeah.
So vendor ID, let me see that which one is the column, the vendor ID. So where is this? I can so we can check, right? So where is this one? If we'll see here where what was the error? Okay, we have the error related notifications. Let me check. Uh, Okay, so here you can see it seems that somewhere column expected CSV. It means that maybe some schema issues. So when we are saying that some is schema issues, it means that the data we have here, the data doesn't have that specific schema. So when we are saying that a specific schema, it means that it's not following that what we can say. That for example, while reading the data, right, we expect that that's this number of field. So maybe it's possible that somewhere while reading any of the record that doesn't have the field coming properly, the full coming. So full comings meant that reports is means say returning the data as null for the columns and all. So just to debug, I'm just going to make it as save as CSV file, and let's see that if we are able to find any of the column that's null. So here I'm just going to make that EP CSV. This is the file we generated. So vendor ID columns, referring vendor ID column somewhere the last one, right? So the last column, maybe we are receiving unexpected value somewhere.
You
So
can
that
put a filter right on the top column.
that value is there. I can see we have that value interact. So the last value we have, but it's 100% sure that it's a schema issue only. But obviously we have to debug somewhere. So that number of column is that missing, but we make all column as what do I can say non mandatory. So it should work. Let me see that is that mandatory field there. So that's a schema related issues, right? We just have to debug. I'm just trying half that if we can find. Otherwise, you have to look for the data. So where is the missing in the data that you can check? So we have issue already. So just need to check that it is having the. We already have this terminated by double quotes and all. Column optional. This is the mandatory one. All are optional there. So
three integrations can be done in the read file. While reading the file line number 5, colon 97 expected double quotes at the specific positions in the native data while trying to read and the render had it using style as terminated but found as this what must say that report 5 is saying that or it's mean that 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we can see something is there missing with this one. Just let me check. Fields are look like same. That's fine. Even we don't have comma in any of the file. That's also includes whatever was. Ah, okay. Okay, this is the third line. That's fine. Fourth line is started from here. That's this working.
Yeah, on the sixth line, if you see it got dragged into two line, is it the
No, no,
reason?
this is not correct. So we have large number data. That's all. Here you can see if you will see this dual quotes. So this dual quotes is
Yeah,
from here to here. It's considering one row, one column. So that's totally fine, right? Even it's read this one too. That, that we have to check, right? It can be something that with the data only we have to just look more deeper in
sure,
that
sure.
to identify. Let it be. So yeah, any other
Yeah,
questions
no,
that we have to debug? Right? That's difficult to debug in the call, and that as of now, that's
yeah,
it will take time
sure,
sometimes. Yeah,
sure. Yeah, sure, sure. That's
yeah.
fine.
Anyone having any other questions? Sorry that it's not able to debug as of now. Yeah, any other one? Please go ahead and ask. Let me see that we have prepared full note side or not. So in our notebook. So we stated a step, map the record output in the mappers for integration. That's fine, right? Follow the notifications. Yeah, that's the total complete step we follow while developing our integrations. I will share this file to you so that it will be helpful for your reference purpose. Uh, Last questions, please. Anyone having any questions? Can you please unmute yourself and ask? Otherwise, we'll close the session for today. I will consider as no. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Let's connect tomorrow.